time to ask Mack. You've got a question? He's got the answer.
Time to ask Mack. When you got a question, time to ask Mack.
All right, we have a question that was asked from Christian on Twitter, and he's basically asking my thoughts on an advertisement that was put out by the Leadership Conference Education Fund, where they claim that 2.6 million working dads would benefit if the minimum wage was raised. And, you know, things like that are pretty comical to me anyway. I find it hilarious when they take numbers and they basically put out propaganda. And basically, let's say, okay, there's 2.6 million working dads in America right now that are on minimum wage. I'm assuming that's what they are getting their number from. And it would make sense. 2.6 million working dads currently on minimum wage. Yeah, if it was raised, those people could be perceived as benefiting from the minimum wage being increased. But let's also let's not forget here that out of that 2.6 million, let's say people are making $10 an hour right now, and a company can afford to pay $10 an hour for, let's say, 5 employees. Actually, let's make it 10 to make it easier here, okay? Easier for math. But let's say this company can pay 10 people $10 an hour, but suddenly, if the costs are now $15 an hour, and they're forced by the government to pay these people more than they're worth, really, I mean, that's what minimum wage is forcing forcing companies, which is people, forcing people to pay people more money than they're worth. So, out of these 10 employees that are making $10 an hour, this employer may be forced now to fire, let's say, 2 or 3 of them. So now 3 of those people are unemployed. They're not making any money. They're not benefiting in any way. In fact, now they are being hurt. They're being negatively affected by the minimum wage. Yet 7 of those people may be making more money, but 3 of them are now making less money. They're making no money. So now those people are looking for a job that they're negatively impacted. And not to mention, what if this company just decides to move and go across state lines to another place? Now, what if all 10 of these employees now are making $0? So this 2.6 million working dads that would supposedly benefit if the minimum wage was increased, I think it's deceptive in nature, because you don't know out of that. I mean, half of those people could be hurt. What's the ratio that's acceptable here? You know, if 1.3 million of the 2.6, half are negatively impacted somehow from this increase, is that an acceptable level? You know, hey, 1.3 million people, they actually were benefited from it. So 1.3 million, those got hurt. But I mean, is that a good ratio? What is the level that makes sense with this? On top of which, and let's point out the fact that even if 2.6 million working dads did not lose their minimum wage jobs, and they continue to work making $15 an hour, that's all fine and good. But now the cost for everything is now substantially increased. Everything now costs more money. It costs more money to do everything nowadays, to get your food. Everybody's got to pay their employees more and more money, which those costs, they're not just absorbed by the company. You understand? These costs are passed along to you guys, the consumer. So with that in mind, you know, these 2.6 million working dads that supposedly benefited are really where they started off to begin with, because everything went up. All the costs went up along with their salary. So who cares if they're now making $15 an hour if they have to pay an equal amount more for everything else that they were getting? They're really exactly where they left off. But again, the people that lost their jobs because of this are even worse now than they started before. Even if they just now have no job, now they have no job and everything costs more. Does this make sense? I think this makes sense to me anyway. And you know, I really appreciate Christian for joining our conversation and for getting on the move today. Again, if you would like to ask your question, you can ask it in several different ways. Again, I'll answer it on the air to the best of my ability. And the best way would be to call in 619-924-0986, or you can email us at talk@OnTheMoveShow, or you can post your questions at facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, or you can tweet us at OnTheMoveShow. And make sure that you include the hashtag AskMack so I can find you if you do that on Twitter.